Close your eyes for a second and try to imagine the most darkest, murderous, corrupt place on the planet. Times that by 100 and you got where I'm from. It's hard making a living in this town, even harder to stay alive. I managed to do both for 22 years. I got my crew backing me up, but with Mr. Rose, you never know what's gonna happen. Rack city bitch, rack city bitch. What's that on that beat? Rack city bitch, rack city bitch. 10, 10, 10, 20s on your titties, bitch. 100 deep, VIP, no guest list. TT Raw, you don't know who you fucking with? Got my other bitch, fucking with my other bitch. Fucking all night, nigga, we ain't sell a bit. Niggas say I'm too dope, I ain't selling it. But I'm fresher than a motherfucking peppermint. Go let him in.
It's gang stalking, everyone. Welcome.
Boom.
I think that went pretty well.
Yeah, it was smooth, dude.
Big show today. Pretty big show today, you guys. Jeffrey Epstein's in the studio. We're not gonna talk to him. He's not a guest. We just got him in the studio. Because we're hiding him from the mob. The furious mob doesn't know his story. I'm pro Epstein, man.
You're pro
If you're not down with our boy, hey, alleged. Okay. I don't, because listen, once, but that was a long time. Listen, here's the thing. You want to, let's say hypothetically, you want to buy a cool private island just to play poker and do normal things.
Oh, God.
And it's totally on the up and up wholesome. You think 100,000 people aren't going to accuse you of having sex with 14-year-old prostitutes just out of jealousy?
That's true. That's true. This is a good point. I had to consider that angle.
So
you're saying it's a conspiracy against my boy.
Oh, absolutely. So
too successful for his own good.
Yeah. So that's why I got him under my banister.
This isn't the first time we've harbored sex offenders, I think. I feel like
we talked to John Podesta at an airport once, I think. And you recommended he go to the California Pizza Kitchen, and we had a decent chat, I guess.
People are going to start casting some sort of aspersions, man. They're going to start thinking the wrong things about us. We keep colluding.
You know what I got to say about your fucking accusations?
Fucking star. Look at the paint on the car.
I thought he was still in the course. All right, never.
Make the ride too hard.
Yeah, it's too hard. Welcome to live gang stalking 2019 spring.
Yes.
Spring season, spring anime. I don't know. Were there any other bits you wanted to do?
I can tell you about something going on in my life right now that is a horrible decision.
I love those.
Led to terrible consequences.
Give it to me.
So one of my roommates moved out. We're at the end of our lease.
Yeah.
And I decided it's like, well, he's not living in that room anymore. I'm gonna turn that room into my office because why not? And I moved my desk in there, and then David's like, "Oh man, that's not a bad idea." So I'm gonna move my desk in there too. So David's got his desk in there, and then Connor comes by and he's like, "Oh yeah, that'd be a good place for my desk too." So now we have 3 dudes with desks in a single room that is barely insulated as is, and we have 3 computers going all the time. It might be the loudest, noisiest place on Earth that is not inside of a literal volcano. Wow. It is just horrible. It's a horrible mistake that I've made. And I'm recording this on basically ghetto style in my room on my laptop because I can't bear to make you guys suffer through screaming gamer nerds for the hour and a half or whatever. You're welcome.
Thank you for that.
Yeah, I also got trapped in an airport overnight, which I don't know if I told you or not.
Oh my God, no.
On my way back, we went to the woods, and on my way back from the woods to where I live, I got stuck in the lovely Chicago O'Hare International Airport overnight.
That's the best airport to get stuck in.
Because my plane ran out of fuel.
Wait, it ran out of fuel at the airport?
So here's what happened. We're flying, right? And it's like, okay, we're going to be making our approach to O'Hare here in about 15 odd minutes because every pilot is from the south for some reason.
Yeah.
Um, and then we're just I look at the map. You can view on the map like where you are in the sky, and we're just circling over Indiana for a good, I don't know, half an hour. I'm like, well, I think we were supposed to have landed by now. And this dude comes on. He's like, well, they weren't able to get us a spot on the runway in O'Hare, so we're just going to keep circling here for another 15 minutes or so, and we should be landing down before too long. Another 15 minutes go by, and alas, they have not been able to clear us a spot in O'Hare, and we're running low on fuel, so we have to stop at Indianapolis. And this stop in Indianapolis ends up, taking so much time that I missed my connecting flight, which was the last flight out of O'Hare that night.
Yeah.
So I get there and I'm like, okay, yeah, we can get you on a flight at 4 p.m. tomorrow. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? It's already my plane touches down at midnight, and I'm stuck for 16 hours in this goddamn airport. And all they gave me for a compensation was a $10 food coupon to use anywhere. And here's the thing: I was starving because I've been on the plane for 3 hours or whatever, and because we were stuck on the tarmac in Indianapolis. Yeah, so I was starving. The only place open, the only place in the entire airport, this megaopolis airport, it's ridiculous, was a McDonald's. So I had to eat a McDouble or whatever the fuck it is with my $10 coupon. I actually had to spend $1 to get this McDonald's. It wasn't enough to cover the meal I wanted. And then I slept on a FEMA style cot.
Okay, all right.
It was horrible.
Yeah,
I was so sweaty and gross.
When we got back from Japan, didn't your plane have a bathroom leak or something?
Yeah, sounds about right. Yeah,
You got shitty planes.
Bathroom leak, shitty planes.
Well, I mean, yeah, that too.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we are recording this live for those listening later, so apologies if it's a little rough. But the upside is we do have sound now that we can play because I figured that out. Oops, I hit that by accident. I swear. So if you want to play any YouTube videos, any sounds, guess what I found? I found a certain old folder of ours.
Extreme.
I can play them, baby. They're back. Their old sound effects are back.
Vintage.
I lost a lot of the good ones.
They've got a lot of they got a nice vinyl crackle to them because they were recorded on 4-track recorder in the 60s.
Oh, Jeffrey, you want to say something? Hey man, while you're passing by, you wanna offer any like maybe?
I'm not interested in young girls.
Oh, okay.
All
right,
for better. Yeah, you put more effort into that than Podesta.
What?
No, never mind. Anyway.
Oh, and this one was always my favorite from Black Lagoon. Takes a second.
Well, that's pretty pansy ass.
I love that guy.
What a great show.
Yeah. All right, cool. Let's talk about. Oh, and also, yeah. Angry Mage keeps telling me about this guy Benio he knows who came back. I don't care. He keeps telling me he has the best gabagool in town. I don't care, Mage. Okay, I don't care about your weird fucking Dago uncle or whatever. So let's get started because it's time for spring.
Yeah, baby.
We got, I think, like 10 shows for you folks, and Ethan even watched a couple of them.
Oh yeah.
So first up is one that you didn't watch. You can sit this one out. Congrats.
All right. I'm gonna lean back and relax.
Well, I mean, you should also participate. I think.
I'm gonna look at this art at least.
Please. Oh yeah, which art? Mine on the stream or?
No, the art for the show you're about to talk about.
Okay, I have it on the stream. I got pictures. I'm prepared, motherfucker.
Okay, I'll look at the stream.
Don't watch it though. You'll get distracted. It'll be too confusing. You won't know which one of me to respond to. Yeah, kimono. Wait, not kimono friends. Katsute kami data kimono tachie. To the abandoned sacred beasts. Was not feeling confident about this one right out of the get-go. And it was the one I was joking about on Twitter, being about the Civil War. And then it turns out it was. It's literally just the Civil War, like ours. It's like silly.
Wait. Like the big one?
The American Civil War.
Like how blatant?
The South is a confederacy.
Oh.
And they're in the outfits. I think they're very similar outfits. You know, I don't know if anyone else had a Civil War where people dress like this.
I'm really not liking the looks of these guys.
But it's also like almost medieval looking, like they're storming castles and shit. But they got these obviously 19th century guns. I don't know what's going on. But it's war's going on. The first scene's really gruesome, very bloody. But then it's kind of at a stalemate. The Union, it turns out, has these people in white uniforms who turn into furries. And they're not really, they're big and tough, but they're not very menacing looking. They really just kind of look like furries. Like they're a little too handsome. I don't like it.
That's problematic because you can't turn being a furry on and off. It's with you always. It's always part of you.
It's your identity. So yeah, this you're saying this show implies that people can sort of transmogrify themselves willingly.
Look, man, I'm just saying. I'm writing an Anime News Network article as we speak. We need to talk about this fuck shit show that nobody's watched.
Oh, you're Rebecca Silverman. See, the name always threw me off. I always thought that was some kind of okay.
Yeah, it's my nom de plume.
It's really coming together. So one of them's like a mermaid sitting on a rhino. I don't know. So they set up the characters. They're in camp after this battle. There's a pretty lady and there's our main guy, and they talk for a bit. And he talks to his friends about, when are you going to ask the pretty lady out? The pretty lady is like the scientist who gave him the beast powers. Then there's this long, weird war montage. And one of the monsters goes rogue, looks like. And then he blows himself up because he knows he's going rogue. And you'd think that after that happens, they would like put a moratorium on the doing the monster thing. But then they keep doing it. And then the main guy is like, when we win this war, I'm gonna ask this lady out, which means someone is going to die.
It depends on if it's gonna be like a Final Fantasy VII type deal, or if it's gonna be like any other piece of media type deal.
Right, I agree. But then the war ends, and they're celebrating. Our MC is like off somewhere. And pretty lady shoots him. As she says, they're all going to go rogue like that one guy, and they have no place after the war. They can't fit in.
There's no evidence of that. Also, can't they turn it off?
She's only temp. I don't know. She knows something maybe. But then she doesn't kill him. She just shoots him because then her partner kills her, and he's psyched about it. Because he's like, I don't care. I'm gonna keep being a beast. So then
keep being a beast.
I'm gonna keep being a beast. Don't halt my beast.
How is LA Beast doing, by the way? Is he still alive?
Did he retire? I hope he's.
I feel like he might have done. I checked in on Custom Grow 420 because I feel like that was kind of around the same time, and now Custom Grow's not in a good place. So, no. He's still doing it. He's still doing it,
LA
man.
Beast is?
Oh no.
Yeah, this is. Can a human being inhale the dominoes? Yeah, no, that's. Yikes.
At least it doesn't seem like they're the same kind of death. 3.5 cheeseburger is that's not normal. Shouldn't consume that.
So our main character wakes up from a 2-month coma. Everybody has gone berserk since then. He's the only one that's okay. Oh yeah, everyone's rampaging, everyone's dying. His whole team's gone insane. And my dude's fucking pissed. And the only part of the show I liked was this last scene where he is fucking super angry and like, suiting up to go kill his former team, which it turns out is the premise of the show. So that last scene was kind of rad. The show is nothing to really write home about. I don't know. The rest of it didn't impress me. But the idea of like being a revenge.
I'm into that shit.
Well, not even revenge. Like he's He didn't even dislike most of those people. But he's
It's like
got to
kind
take
of
them
like
out.
I'm sure he'll uncover the true nature of this berserk thing after the fact, or like during the course of the journey.
Yeah.
It's gonna be like a kind of oh god, what's the game with the big monsters you got to done
Shadow
kill?
of the Colossus.
It's a little bit like a Shadow of the Colossus deal where these is gonna be the monster in the end, or go to their side or something. I don't know.
One of these things, it might
Yeah,
end.
yeah.
Oh, this is a manga adaptation by Mappa, by the way. Mappa.
One of these guys looks like an Ariel Monsters character. That's the one with the creepy kind of maw and with the weird
Oh
horn
yeah,
and nose thing
the
going
weird
on.
round guy. Yeah,
Yeah, I don't like him. He's bad news.
his design's okay, but yeah, I wouldn't really want to hang out with him.
Yeah, I mean, like, they really didn't. The scale of these monsters, if they can make a bunch of dragons, why wouldn't they just make a whole fuck ton of dragons?
Maybe they
Why?
can't control the manifestation of the
Oh, if
beast.
that's some
Again,
scary science then.
Don't fucking steal my beast. Don't alter my beast.
Wait, no, Alter Beast is lit though. Alter the beast all you want.
Altered Beast sucks.
What?
Have you ever played that
I don't
game?
know. I don't know anything about Alter Beast.
Oh, okay. I mean, it's a very bad game. It's iconic, but would not recommend going back to it. Anyways.
Yeah, I mean, most beat 'em ups are kind of rough.
You watched Kanata no Astra.
I did. I did watch
Astra.
Kana no Astra.
No, Astra.
Yes.
I have a picture of that here. Yeah. 48 minutes of space.
Yeah.
Manga drawn or animated by Lersch. 48 whole minutes. I assumed since, big 48-minute pilot, like this will be a 2-core show. This is 12 episodes.
Oh,
Kind of weird. Why not just make it 13?
I think maybe they didn't want to like. You have to get the whole concept out there.
Well,
right?
yeah, exactly. But normally you do a 48-minute. That means you're gonna take things real slow. But I feel like we can rush into things pretty much as fast as most anime typically.
I guess
we're trapped in space within the first 8 minutes or something.
no, I think it's a little bit longer than that. It feels like the breaking point for me is them they get sucked into a wormhole, or some sort of black hole that takes them somewhere else.
Very
and
silly.
That seems like the middle point to me. But I don't know. Yeah.
You get sucked into the black hole. Oh, I guess that is 20 minutes in. All right, that's. Yeah,
Which
see?
I guess you could have done that as a cliffhanger.
Oh yeah, I meant to not 8 minutes. I was thinking a show is 12 minutes. No, show's 24, and they're stuck and they're trapped in space at 23. Yeah, they could have just ended with them trapped in space. That would have been a good cliffhanger, and then the second episode would have also been a good cliffhanger. Could have gotten 2 for the price of 1. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, I guess it might have been like you don't have a full idea of what the show actually is, which is I think maybe the purpose of having it, extending the first episode.
Yeah, I guess the end of that second half has a better hook than just oh no, someone's floating out there.
Right.
So yeah, no, I get that. Astra Lost in Space, and it's about all these teens going to planet camp, they call it.
That's so silly.
And yeah, that's good. And the first thing you notice about this show is that it is not 16:9, but also definitely not a cinematic aspect ratio. Just the tiniest little bit of letterboxing for some reason. And it looks kind of bad up front. Oh well. But our main girl's an airhead. She's a ditz, and she gets some stuff stolen by a bike thief in the airport, and then a good Samaritan gets hauled off by police bots, the one who helps her. Yeah, she uses
these
the wrong words for
sequences are
everything.
these opening sequences are really damn silly.
It's a very goofy show off the bat, yeah, which I didn't think it was gonna be for some. I don't know.
It's a pretty stark intro. She's got kind of like a cutesy thing going, but she's trapped in the vacuum of space. And then you're immediately in this kind of whimsical, crazy land.
Yeah, that's going to be a theme running through this season is cool concept that sort of gets ruined if you go in cold because the very first shot is going to be this is what happens in the show. Okay, now we'll set it up. Because they can't let you just if there's 1 second of downtime at the beginning, they're just so scared that someone's going to change the channel. they can't not just give you the premise up front with zero context.
It's some tonal whiplash, like, and we're, obviously based on the way we consume for the podcast, we have to finish the episode. So like, I think the effect would have been actually pretty sweet if we didn't know where we're heading here, and I would have been more fine with the cutesy stuff in the beginning, but yeah, little jarring, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Anyway.
But yeah, all these kids get dropped off on a deserted planet alone to like deepen their bonds or help their teamwork or something. And everyone except the protagonist and the hothead Good Samaritan guy seems kind of miserable. Like they all just seem just like they're just not happy about what's going on.
Yeah, I mean, they do have some personality problems for sure. Like there's like the hot girl who's just she's like got her sister along with her and is pretty not into it. And you got genius boy, stoic genius boy character with a 200 IQ.
And he's supposed to be a genius, but the stuff he figures out using his fucking 200 IQ is not impressive at the end of this episode, I gotta say.
Well, it's like he doesn't even figure out the conceit of the show. Like he doesn't even that actually happens twice this season, where it's like genius guy misses something that's right before his nose, like right in front of him for some reason.
Yeah.
Whatever. But yeah, the only character that's really like, other than that, that's kind of pleasant is the little girl. But even her, it's like she's getting rejected by her sister, which is miserable. But whatever.
Yeah. So they get to the planet, and immediately after landing, this freaky black orb sucks them up.
That shit happens so quick.
It's just it's like, all right, see you kids. And he takes us off, and they're just like, oh, there's a weird black orb sitting here, like, which is why I think probably both of us immediately went, oh, this is a test.
Yeah,
that they're putting through. But then they immediately dispel that. But I feel like it's so obvious that they maybe like break the rules and actually have the characters bring attention to it and say, no, that can't be it, even though it actually is it. But I don't know.
Yes, that's exactly where my mind went as well. Is like, what are they going to subvert, or are they actually going to, like, they uncover this throughout the course of the show, and it is a crazy conspiracy?
Because any explanation that's not it's a test would be really stupid. Like, there's just a random black ass orb sitting there.
I wonder about maybe it being like some sort of alien race providing the test rather than their own people.
Yeah, it could be them from the future.
They have to. Maybe they're being, them from the future, some sort of all-knowing entity that is going to force them down this particular path that they have to take in order to save the universe.
Yeah.
Like they're going to assemble like a perfect team or whatever, and they're setting up the situation to test them or whatever. Which is Russell Crowe's. It's all tests.
Russell Crowe's on a spaceship. I'm building a team.
Of course.
Stabbing himself in the hand. I was saying maybe this would be more exciting if they didn't show her Lost in Space at the beginning. I guess it's called Lost in Space though, so maybe you kind of know anyways. Hothead keeps having flashbacks to his senpai falling off a cliff. That's his backstory. He's upset.
That is another recurring theme this season. Is a survival show with a mentor character, who, well, and to a lesser degree in the other show, of course. But.
Right, yeah. So Airhead is still outside after everyone gets in this random ship that's floating around next to them. So they find a very convenient roll of wire right there, and there's this long rescue scene that's actually kind of all right, even though the stakes were completely made up, because he's like heading back towards the ship, but he's his trajectory's off, so he's gonna float past it. But everyone on the ship still has fuel in their little jetpacks.
Right. And also, like, if they really wanted to, they could have somebody. They do it all for the payoff of them having to extend out by their hands or whatever. But really, they could have just had somebody who had enough fuel left be attached to the wire that they were using earlier, and then reel them back in.
Yeah,
because that wouldn't take.
There are a lot of solutions, and that's another thing that they sort of figure out at the last minute. That's just like the most obvious thing ever.
Yeah.
But
so, you're in space. You might be a little fucking shook.
Maybe a little bit. So this is when they all start talking, and someone proposes that it's all staged. So they try to dismiss that theory. And this is when I started comparing it to Mayoiga. Remember Mayoiga?
No, which one was that?
The one where it's like 50 characters on a bus and they're all fucking crazy.
Oh, right.
You remember
Yes,
how
I do
fucking
remember.
nuts that one was?
Yeah.
I got Mayoiga vibes for some reason, and then at the end of the episode, the opening kicks in, and the opening looks just like Mayoiga's opening, and it fucking freaked me out. I don't know why they would be trying to go for Mayoiga.
We should watch Mayoiga.
I watched all of Mayoiga, but I would love for you to watch Mayoiga.
Yeah, we should do an episode on Mayoiga.
Mayoiga is a fucking whew. But yeah, one of these characters' names is Zach Walker.
Oh, the names are great.
Zach
there's like an Olger and Luke. You know, they have a bunch of different nationalities represented.
Yeah. So this is when we get the actual premise of the show. They're on this ship. They're near a planet that they have no idea what it is. They're 5,000 light years away from civilization or whatever. They do not have enough food and water for 5,000 light years. So like after 10 minutes of motivation and fucking talking, they figure out that they should just make some fucking stops along the way.
Yeah, like and it's our hothead character that does it because he's like
he's the one who
the links. Instead of the genius, the 200 IQ guy can't. Mensa
no
man
idea.
Can't put together this simple puzzle here.
Nope, it's impossible, you guys.
If you presented me with this, I would be like, this has to be a trick, right? Like there's something. It's gotta be a trick question. There's no way it's that easy. But
it's not going to be that easy. They're going to stop by, a bunch of different planets. There's going to be challenges.
I'm sure there's going to be a situation where they get out of their faster than light travel, and then they're like, oh my god, the planet that was supposed to be here is gone. What do we do? All hope is lost.
Yeah.
And they're having to do a lot of problem solving, and that's probably all the show will be is problem solving to get themselves back to Earth.
Isn't this Star Trek Enterprise or something? Is this Deep Space Nine? Is this one of those? I feel like one of the plots of a Star Trek series is like this.
I think it's Deep Space Nine.
Okay.
Enterprise is pretty much in line with the original show where they go from planet to planet. But I think there is one where they're like stuck and they got to get their way back, or it might be like a season of Enterprise or something.
Yeah, I think it's inspired by. Yeah.
But I gotta be honest. Like, I know I've seen this premise before, but like, and once the rules of the ship start getting established, it's like really obvious where everything's heading. But I'd be lying if my blood wasn't pumping a little bit.
Yeah, I think this is watchable.
I like this. I like survivalism. I think it's fun to watch, and boy, do we get a lot of it in this season. But which is like, does Japan know something we don't? I think I've asked this question before, where it just seems like some certain seasons they'll have very specific things that appear in a lot of different shows, and we watched 3 survivalism shows for this so far. Is it 3 or is it more? Because Astra's got survivalism a little bit. Dr. Stone's got survivalism. Sonon Deska's got, that's all survivalism. Like that's just
I guess there's a trend. I don't know if that's because of like Yuru Camp. It gets people interested in roughing it, or some other show that's airing in Japan is popular. I don't know.
But that's or they just know. Or they just know this is where we're heading, and they're trying to disseminate the information in the best way.
Some crazy marketers who are dissecting Twitter metadata. Who can say?
Yeah, they realize the nuclear apocalypse is coming or something.
Did you watch the shorts then?
Yeah, I watched the one. I'm gonna watch the other one for the next episode, but I watched the one you told me to watch.
Oh right. Oh yeah, I didn't have you watch. Yeah.
I'd like to watch all the shorts though, so I will do that for the next one. But
okay, yeah, there's 2. There's really only 2.
I didn't. Yeah, no, I thought this was honestly way better than it had any right to be. It kind of won me over.
It's okay.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's okay.
I like the short hair flat girl. Short hair flat girl. I think she's Italian. I like her.
I believe that I believe that she's in there. It's
okay.
I forget a lot of them. Okay, now it's time. Now it's time to get fucking huge.
Oh yeah, baby.
In the pants area, in the crotch.
Oh yeah.
In the everywhere, because it's time for dumbbell 9-kilo Moteru.
Let's fucking go. Let's go.
It's the seasonal meme show, everybody. And it's a fun time.
Let's go.
How many kilos are the dumbbells that you lift, or something like that? I got 13 minutes into this and I forgot I was supposed to be taking notes because it was the first show I watched this season. Jump straight to this
I
one.
got notes. I got the notes, son.
Okay.
Joe, you want me to just run through it?
Well, okay. So the premise is a big fat Gyaru and a weird pervert walk into a gym, and they're both drawn by Doga Kobo.
Yes.
Oh, and it's a manga by Yabako Sandrovich, of course.
Yes. The legendary.
Of course, he's like some kind of Eastern European, like
sex pervert man.
Yeah, bodybuilder or something, strong guy. Yeah, go ahead with your talk.
There's a high school girl who eats too damn much.
She's a big fat fatty.
And one day when walking home from school, her friend points out that she's been putting on weight, which freaks out the protagonist. And then she's like
have you noticed you're a huge fat bitch?
Girl. Like, oh, really? Nani?
Nani?
a huge fat bitch. So
Watashi?
She's like, I gotta start working out to get in shape. Rather than cutting her diet or anything. So
yeah.
She goes and tours a gym. She gets sucked in because there's like a 1 week free trial, and she gets on a tour, and she's like, I don't know if this is for me. Everybody's gigantic here because everybody at this gym is a huge muscle brown stud.
She's in a crazy man gym.
Which is like, that's the gym you want to go to, I think.
I would feel so self-conscious. I don't know.
Oh, dude, I went to this bodybuilding gym for like a year and a half, and it was awesome because it's like, it's just nothing but rusted iron and big boys. And anyway, so she gets turned off, but then the personal trainer that she gets introduced to is really cute, and she gets a crush on him. So she starts going on the daily, and we start going into like edutainment realm where she learns how to do proper bench presses and squats.
Yeah, no, that's the thing is, I couldn't believe starting off that this show was 24 minutes because it seems like the most short-ish show ever with its premise. And when you watch it, like a lot of it really feels like one of those gimmick shorts, like edutainment shorts, but with like way, 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 way fucking higher production values because it's Doga Kobo. Like the kind of it feels like the kind of short that's paid for by some kind of agency.
That was my mind went as well.
Except for the fact that I doubt Japan feels the need to spend money making their women even skinnier. So like, other than that,
this is about making them huge, dude.
Oh yeah, this is about Japan needs some lean meat on them gals.
Well, I mean the guys are so skinny now. You gotta have one gender that's massive. But
oh yeah.
So yeah, like you get some edutainment stuff, and if you need to learn how to do a bench press, they teach you how to arch your back and stuff, and you do proper form. And
I didn't know you were actually supposed to arch your back bench pressing.
You are. You engage you engage the lower pectorals more. Doing
that's like the opposite of what you're supposed to do with other stuff. Interesting.
So obviously, our protagonist struggles with these because she's fat, and but she keeps going from her desire to be sexy, and she can't stop eating, but she learns from her muscle obsessed classmate, class prez friend who is going to the gym with her.
Her friend is horny for muscles,
and she
not
learns
the boys, just the muscles.
Yes, correct. Like she drools over great lats and stuff.
Oh yeah,
and rear delts. And turns out eating too much might be a good thing because it might make her get super huge. My last note is mud dig. Mud
dig. Yeah.
Go ahead.
It's like if they can keep up a good ratio of like, because it's mostly like fit memes. Like
yeah.
Oh, squatting is hard, fucking.
Yes, of course. It's like the most rote stuff.
Oh sure. Yeah. And it's like that, and it needs good character interactions as well. Like I hope it doesn't try it really got in really fast. Like there was almost no character setup. It was just like, I'm fat, I'm gonna go to the gym, and then she's at the gym. That's why, again, it felt like a short. So like they just need to make sure it doesn't get into. I hope they don't try to do like drama or something. And it's
no way.
I hope it doesn't
no
get like.
Way.
I'm just like, I'm trying to think of ways it could get boring, and I hope they don't slide into those. And we have to talk about character design of the fucking year. Fucking boy face over here. is so good. Just this little shonen protag face on like the Giga Chad, you know.
Yeah,
And he's
like,
dancing in the intro and he's flexing with all these other guys. It's fantastic.
yes,
He's the best
I
part of
really
the
love
show.
that.
He just loves it. Like he's just there to be
He's
huge.
always smiling.
He, like,
closed eyes contentment.
Yeah,
the
he's
entire
the
time.
closed eyes, happy, cheerful guy, and he accidentally like breaks into huge poses, rips his clothes off. You know, fantastic.
Yeah, stuff. One thing I want to make note of is good. It seems like we're gonna get a good spectrum of ladies' bodies, and they are beautifully rendered female forms.
Yeah, if you're like one of those guys who only likes like sweaty ab women, fucking here you go.
I actually at the beginning when she's a little tubby, there's this shot where like she's slim.
I have that
she
on
expands.
Oh no, yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Oh boy.
Oh no.
Yeah.
No. I will never unlearn the Japanese word for muscles because they must fucking say kinnik so many goddamn times in this first episode. Also, the other thing I'll say, last thing, is that very ballsy of them to put the actual weights and measurements and calories of all these things in the show instead of like having her look at having the scale thing like spinning and then it cuts to her reaction instead of they just tell you like she's this tall, she weighs this much, and she's a fat fucking pig and she's disgraceful.
She's seriously losing face
off the bat, so that's fantastic.
Yep.
So yeah,
Killer.
Decent show.
I'm into it.
Oh, Angry Mage says there's less detail on the it just says less detail. I assume that means on the musculature, on the bods, or like detail like the story. I don't know what I'm just gonna assume there's less definition. Which I believe. Okay. You can't draw every one of those striations, right?
Yeah. Except for the boys who have like 18 packs.
There are some shots where there's like, you cannot draw enough like little humps all over. Like,
I'm just looking at this guy's fucking face.
He loves it.
Shit, I love it too.
Yeah, you can't.
What else do you need, really?
He's gonna
if you were that big, what else do you need?
He's gonna have the exact face, dying of a heart attack at 35.
He had a good life.
Yeah, no, absolutely worth it. Okay, next up, I had you watch Mao-sama Retry, I believe.
You did.
Because it fucked with my head a lot, and I don't even think I was on anything watching it.
What? You're gonna have to give me a reason. Okay, I'll listen.
I couldn't understand it. Could you understand it? Am I retarded?
Oh yeah, no, I got it. No, but like sometimes we have those slips when we watching a lot of anime.
I must have missed something. Yeah. Okay, we'll try to get through this. This is a light novel adaptation by.
I'm not saying it all makes sense, but I get it. Like I
mean, I know I think it's an isekai. I think it might be an isekai.
Maybe.
Light novel adapted by Ekachi Epilka, who have done this and the short show about people waiting for the train. So first isekai of the season. Oh wait, Hold on. Wait, I said, it's our first isekai of the season. It's our first. Thank you.
They're back, baby. They're
Congratulations.
Back. We made it. We got ourselves another isekai. It's like in the hospital room. Like it's been a 3-day period of birth. It's a breach, and we finally turn the baby around and get it out head first. Congratulations, ma'am. It's an isekai. It's here.
What was it born via isekai section?
Oh my goodness!
I got this.
No,
I got the. Yeah. Oh yeah. Mao-sama Retry. So, it's isekai. It starts out with a guy. He types some stuff, then he floats through some light. And you know what? You explain it. Maybe you got it. You seem like you got it.
Yeah. So there's this guy. He's at a computer. He types stuff and he floats through some light.
Okay. All right. Fantastic.
Well, yeah, he's like the game developer shutting down his game after 15 years. It's one of those MMO things.
Oh,
people
he's
play.
the developer.
Yes, he is the developer of the game.
Well, because he acts like he's surprised that he turned into the developer. But
it's yes, I can see why you'd be confused because it seems like he doesn't even understand the rules of his own game, and
but I feel like
character,
he calls the developer by his name. He calls himself by the third person. I don't fucking.
So he created this representation of himself in the game, which is Mausama. You know, is the character, and he also speaks to the character.
But he's also like the final boss or something.
I think the demon is inside of the ring and is also the final boss.
Because the demon. Okay.
Yes, the demon is in his ring and he speaks to it. It kind of like has like an ethereal presence, and he hears like the voice and stuff. But he is the developer of the game. Yes.
Okay. All right.
But
and also
this is not exactly his game. This is not exactly his game world because there are things in the game world that are not the same as they are in the one that he made.
Such a fucking weird.
But he still has access to developers.
He has a UI. Like it's just a fucking mess.
Yeah, but like, he doesn't recognize this girl, and like which it could be explained as like maybe he hadn't played like he wasn't.
I'm not interested in young girls. I'm not interested in young girls.
Oh, okay, good.
I'm not interested in young girls. I'm not interested in young girls.
Still going.
Sorry, go on. I hit it a bunch of times. I didn't mean to.
Okay, so, they could explain it away if he was not seemingly the sole developer of the game.
I'm not interested in young girls.
I'm not interested in young girls.
I'm not interested in young girls.
Here they come.
What are you? I'm not hearing anything. Are you hearing something? Sorry, go on. I'll stop.
Yes, is this what was happening to you? Were their voices popping in your head like watching the show?
Absolutely. I think. Oh, you know what? Oh no, I think that was a different show. One of these shows I fell asleep during and had the most terrifying experience of my life, where I either had sleep paralysis or I had an extremely convincing dream where I had sleep paralysis in the dream, and it was the scariest thing I've ever experienced. It was. I think it was the daughter show. I think it was the other one with the cute girl. But anyways, keep explaining. Sorry, I keep on.
He meets this little girl. Little girl is like a shitty girl. Not that like her personality. Like she's like a very cute little girl and seems to have a nice personality, but she's responsible in her town for taking care of the wastes, which is like, I don't know why they would make this literal angel made flesh and to make her dispose of fecal matter. And this is a shot of her dumping a bucket of literal shit in this show. And it's like completely fucking ridiculous.
And then is that this thing where like a bunch of villagers walking like, hey, dumping shit again, shit dumper? Fuck you.
Yeah,
fuck you,
basically.
6-year-old girl.
Yeah, as if
kicking her.
As if this is how people are. I mean, I know it's like a fantasy world, but I don't know if there's really been a point in time where beautiful little girls were just savaged like that and rocks pelted at them and shit. But anyway, he tells the little girl to clean up, and then he carries her, and then he's got like admin privileges so he can spawn items and stuff. But for a while he wasn't able to access it, but then he killed a monster and had access again for some reason. I don't know. Go to the town. They're like, okay, we're gonna go to the kingdom, and you're gonna come with me. And we're gonna go to your town and get your possessions before we leave. And they go into town, and for some reason he cloaks himself. Like he's like, okay, you go in there and I'll just watch. Even though she was already being surrounded by bad bully boys, and it's very obvious what's about to happen is that they're about to fucking pelt her with rocks. And because I think they're literally like bouncing them in their hand, and she turns around to look at him, and he's going ghost. He's fucking out. and like I'm like, wait, what the fuck? Why don't you intimidate these guys? Which is what ends up happening anyways. That he decides to intimidate these boys, but he waits until after she's been hit with like 5 or 6 rocks, and like meanwhile he's having this conversation with the actual demon, who is living inside of this ring he was given by a thing. And But like I'm the entire time he's having this conversation, I'm like, this girl's being beaten in front of you. Like they're about to start pummeling her with their fucking fists. Like, what are you doing, you crazy motherfucker?
Well, the thing about him is that he's, again, I don't think he was like this in the real world, but in the game he's like supposed to be like a Yakuza guy.
Yes, the Mao-sama of the game world is supposed to be a Yakuza type. So he's playing.
He assumes that role
character.
for some reason.
Yes, this is correct. But because he's trying to adhere to the rules of the game that he created, even though we know that this is not exactly like his game world.
Yeah, and why is the oh no, he's not the why is the villain in a fantasy game like a mafioso?
Yeah, that I was also going through my head as I'm like, this is a bit strange. This seems to be kind of like pretty typical sword and sorcery stuff. He's smoking cigs. He's got a lighter.
Constantly lighting cigs. The idea of a fucking Yakuza guy in an isekai is amazing. 10 out of fucking 10.
It's pretty good.
Like Hinamatsuri, about like that's about a Yakuza guy taking care of a young girl, and it's fucking fantastic.
If he just ran shit like a Yakuza dude rolls up and he just knows the rules of the game.
Yeah, it's like, you know, you could do. I would be very. It'd be taking the cliche of he turns up and he's like Jesus and he's really good at everything, but he's just fucking Yakuza shit the whole time. That'd be awesome.
Yeah. Oh, like he's like twisting fairies' fucking like wrists and stuff, you know, because they're like, I won't work with you. You're clearly like an evil mob guy, you know.
No, he would never do. He has to be.
He's a good mob. Good.
Yeah, he has to be honorable. Like he's Yakuza don't just twist innocent people's arms, you know. Like he does what has to be done when it needs to be done. But the other thing,
there's let's say there's a real fucking asshole in the town. He would just go stomp him basically or something like that.
He would like threaten him first, and then you know people would always antagonize him, but that's when he would break out the fucking switchblade or whatever it is Yakuza guys use.
Yeah.
But and also the other thing about this is that it's he's playing a tough guy character in the isekai, but his internal monologue is the weak nerd. Overlord does that. How Not to Summon a Demon Lord does that. The Slime Show did that. Every isekai is like, I'm tough guy in fantasy world, and the internal monologue is this otaku from the real world. They keep doing it. Craziness.
Yes. They cannot keep getting away with it.
Yep. And did you find the directing like incredibly awkward and kind of bizarre?
I mean, if it seems like you were basically unable to follow, yeah, I just like. I mean, I know the isekai tropes, so it didn't really take that much for me to put those pieces
just
together.
Like the choice of shots and like the way the scenes were laid out were just like it's hard to verbalize, but it just seemed so uncanny to me.
I can see that. I think like more so than anything, the pacing was kind of weird, and
that's
then
true. Yeah.
Where like we went into this wishing well cave, you know, just like on our. We kind of went from place to place in strange ways. It doesn't feel like we really covered a lot of ground, but we just kind of teleport places.
Right.
I don't know.
Yeah, and then for me, I add on top of that, I had no idea who this guy was or what his goal is, or what the world is, because he says it's a game, but it's not a game.
It is a game because he's able to use his admin privileges, but it's not a game because it's not his world. I don't know.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go pee really quick. I'll be right back.
Wait.
Fill the time.
Okay. Want to listen to some music, everybody? I got what do I got? I got in here. Got some nice break music. What's got a good soundtrack? I don't know. What's got a good chill soundtrack? Got like what about like Pokemon or something? What's going on here? This This. There we go. It's break time, everybody. Just hang out. Chill. That was quick.
We back.
Break's over.
Yes.
I said I made note. I thought apparently the sound effects seemed like they weren't finished to me.
Huh.
I felt like there was new music starting constantly.
There were a lot of like kind of musical stings where it's like, oh my god, you're gonna take me with you. I'm the little girl. Oh my god, we're going on a grand adventure. Oh my god, like maybe that's what you're
Yeah.
thinking of.
And when he gets introspective, because he has to talk to himself in his head, he just looks off blankly into the distance, and like the shot doesn't change, and there's not enough emotion in his face or anyone's faces.
Well, that was exactly what was going on with like when the girl was getting beaten and he's just staring off into space, invisible.
Yeah.
Like you just said you're gonna protect her, and then you're just fucking off. I don't know.
And by the end of this episode, they're trying to give them like a play fighting father-daughter relationship, which does not work at all because they've known each other for an episode. And then he gets some evil skull ring, and that's when I really fucking lost it. I just threw my hands in the air like, what's the fuck's this ring? He sets her village on fire because they're bullies.
But like you could have still gotten her shit. He's like,
there's a lot of things he could have done.
I'm sorry we didn't. First of all, I'm sure there's lots of innocent people there who didn't abuse this poor girl. I know we're gonna cast everybody in this light, but it's probably not realistic. Second, he apologizes that they weren't able to get her stuff. It's not that you weren't able to, it's that you destroyed everything before you could. Like, you're an animal. You are the monster that people say you are. But she loves it.
Did you notice that the ED... Okay, maybe I was totally freaking out for... Shut the fuck up. I felt like the ED literally had an error where they layered two instrumentals over each other or something.
Oh,
was I just losing my mind watching this show?
I wasn't paying that much attention to the ED, if I'm being honest.
I need to watch it again then, because I really feel like they just fucked up and accidentally like put the track over itself for a few seconds. Masama
might have a bit of a cluttered instrumental.
Here, the listeners will be able to hear this. You won't be able to hear this on the recording because I'm playing it on my PC. All right, let's play it over here. That's going. Oh wait, no.
Oh,
what the fuck is that?
When is that? When is that in the?
That's 20 seconds into the opening. In the opening or the ending.
What is the timestamp?
In the episode, it's about 22 minutes in.
I'm gonna play it on my computer. Hold on.
Sure. Let you play it. Like, yeah, that's definitely a fuck up. There's no way.
Yeah, the bass line and the drum track are like totally out of sync there. I don't know what the fuck's going on.
They just fucked it up. It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it seemed like there was like a transition thing that was supposed to happen, and then they just kept going.
It fixes itself at some point, but yeah, that first 10 or 20 seconds, I thought I was tripping balls.
Yeah, that's a bit weird.
So yeah, this is a fascinating show, and then it's a 10 out of 10 concept with a 1 out of 10 execution. Just amazing.
Sorry this show traumatized you, dude.
This one, yeah, I don't know. Also, Mage says that he's been reading this what is this, light novel, and says this. Not entirely sure the little girl isn't a little boy, actually.
You know, I'm gonna be honest. I got that impression from the open. I really got that feeling that that's a little boy, based on like. There's like one outfit that they put the character in that, like, in particular, I'm like, that's gonna be a boy, I think.
It's gonna be a boy.
Congratulations. It's
why
a boy.
Would you normally do the other way? Why would you reveal that it's a boy? It's like you're gonna get less. There's less gay people. I don't know who that. I don't know why you would do that.
Let's see. I go through a series of outfits here. Yeah. Oh, yep. Yeah. They put him in a little schoolboy outfit, and it looks a lot like a boy to me.
Yeah.
Maybe they're pandering. Maybe they want both audiences.
Maybe a little ambiguous for a while. Yeah. So yeah, that's a weird one. We're probably like halfway through. Want to talk about the short?
Yeah.
The one short. You watched Sonan Deska,
I did.
which I think is a pun.
It is a pun.
But I couldn't find a word. Couldn't find a word Sonan that means like lost or something. But it must mean are you lost? But it also means is that so?
Yes.
There's your Japanese lesson for today. Manga adaptation by Isola, who did Happy Sugar Life. It's 12 minutes long, half a show. Half the show I used to be. So it's it's another survival show, and it starts out with 4 or 5 absolutely spotless teenage girls lying on a beach.
Yeah.
Completely.
That might have the record for the quickest panty shot. Not in terms of like time to panty shot, because I'm sure there are shows that open on them. But like there is a panty shot that is maybe 3 frames. Maybe. It's really funny.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
It's a blink and you'll miss it kind of panty shot.
Yeah, was there another show this season? There might have been another show this season that started the panty shot, but maybe I'm thinking of this one. Bakemonogatari starts with a panty shot. Kizu Monogatari starts almost with a panty shot. Those are the ones I can think of. Trapped out, cast away on this desert island, and they introduce each other. Not a lot of setup, but my first thought was, man, are they really going to keep these school outfits on the desert island? They're going to be in these untattered school outfits the entire time.
Well, if you destroy it, you got to pay for it when you get back.
They make you buy a new one. So, their ace in the hole here is one of the girls was raised by like a survivalist woodsman army guy. So, yes, again. So she keeps flashing back to her like eating moose nut. Eating a moose nut. That's a different. She eats some Rocky Mountain oysters. Is that what they're?
Rocky Mountain oyster, yeah.
No, that's buffalo.
That's what it is.
No,
it's a similar idea. It's a wild animal.
You're still eating some balls, yeah. So and then there's decent comedic bits in here. Like she just busts open a fish and starts drinking its blood, and everyone is standing there like,
that had me laughing out loud.
that's a very good one. And then it's
the whole sequence because to get the fish, she just smacks a flying fish out of the air, and then she's ripping her shirt off. She uses her shirt as the vessel to contain this when she crushes. I mean, it's pretty horrific.
Yeah, just the slapping you in the face with like how fucking brutal this girl is willing to be is great.
And then we're immediately into her straddling a girl, but to try to piss in her mouth.
It's piss time. Yep, immediately. Yep. And then it turns out they're not even on the island yet. They're on like a sandbar. So they have to swim to the island. And then I feel like this is the only thing that isn't like accurate in terms of survivalism is she takes out a shark by throwing a phone battery near it, which doesn't make any sense.
Struck me as odd.
That's like throwing a gun near a guy and he fucking runs away.
If some dude started pelting guns at you, I think I would probably book it too.
Yeah.
Because he might have more. He might just keep hurling guns.
So then now they're finally on the island, and one of them's thirsty, so the survival girl spits in her mouth. So yeah, not that bad. I've seen two episodes of this at this point, and not bad at all. It's not dry. It doesn't look great, but
it's a little ugly.
But it's there. It's I like watching people trying to make it on this bitch of a earth.
It's just how it is.
That's how it be. Sometimes.
My only note on the show is more fetish stuff, please. It's just all I want.
Yeah, in the second episode, one of them sucks water out of a girl's sock. And there's another one of them offers piss, but it's not accepted. They eat some cicadas.
As long as piss is always on the table, it'll keep me around. I'm not even like piss really or piss drinking, but I think it's funny in this context.
Yeah. So doing all right so far there.
Yeah. Yeah,
Very
baby.
cool. Okay. Let's get a couple shows that just I watched out of the way.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe let's alternate. We don't want to do two of mine in a row. But I watched the other fantasy lolly show for, daughter caring for show this season, which is called, oh boy, Uchi no Ko no Tame Naraba Ore wa Moshikashitara Mao no Taosareru Taosaru Kamo Shiranai.
Nailed it, dude.
No, I fucking nailed it. If it's for this girl, I would even defeat a demon lord.
Wait, no, no. Looking at this art, it doesn't look.
Doesn't look what?
What? Looking at like the preview art, it doesn't look like an isekai. It's just like sitting on a bench. What's going on here? How does this become an isekai?
Really? Wait, what's the promotional art look like?
They're like in a cafe or something.
Oh, did they go to the? Wait, I'm not seeing what you're seeing. I mean, it's like a fantasy cafe.
What
It's like a tavern.
It's so brightly lit to be a tavern. It looks like a coffee shop.
Yeah, they got old coffee.
Unimportant. It's not important.
You know what? I think this is the one I fell. Yeah, I fell asleep during this one. Fell asleep on the couch. And I had a dream where I woke up on the couch, and I resumed the show, and then the screen blacked out, and like words started appearing on the screen, but like I couldn't read them because my mind was broken, and I thought I had gone insane. No. And it was like a poltergeist, like horror, like I've lost my mind kind of situation, because it was very creepy how the words were on the screen. And then something like flashed in the corner of my vision, but I couldn't turn my head to face it, and I screamed like a child, but my voice was like muddled, like it was underwater. And then I woke up and I was very upset. And I think I might not have watched the last 5 minutes of this because the show was over and I couldn't remember if I had seen it or not. But
oh my god, I've known several people in my life who have had who have what is not night terror,
sleep paralysis.
I've known a couple of people that have experienced sleep paralysis, and boy, am I glad I've never experienced that. If it's
anything like the shit that I saw, it sucks. So yeah, it's a show also called Uchi Musume. If it's for my daughter, I'd even defeat not actually his daughter. Yeah, more fantasy. So can you believe this is a light novel, by the way?
Oh my goodness.
Studio is Maho Film, founded last year. This is kind of their first thing. So it starts off with this generic oh yeah, it's totally fantasy. He's in an RPG fight. He's fighting a thing with a sword. And then instantly Dirty Lolly shows up. That's a fucking, a filthy, like an unkempt lolly, you fucking sickos. Oh, okay? Jesus.
I thought it was in young girls.
I thought it was gonna be like a foul-mouthed lolly.
Get it through your fucking head, okay? Get it through your head. Because you don't learn it, I'm gonna fucking keep telling you. I think they're loading up. I pressed it a bunch. It's gonna.
I'm not interested in young girls. I'm not interested in young girls.
This is why we don't have one of these.
Get it through your. That's not why. It's because you're 2,000 miles away and we don't have a soundboard. Oh no! I feel like I didn't hit it more than.
It should trail off and echo. It should be like progressively get deeper. I'm not interested in young girl.
Oh yeah. Oh man. Yeah, we should have a. I would be imitating one of my favorite podcast bits of all time from something no one ever listened to, but they had a bit where they had a voice mod. They had a voice changer, and he was being Gumby. He was imitating Gumby, and he's like talking like this, and then he didn't know that the guy was going to turn his voice down, so he's just going like. Or no, he was turning himself down, so he goes like, oh god, what did he say? Oh yeah, he goes like, all I care about is making money, and that's all Gumby cares about. He lost it. That's all-time bit. Angry Mage says this show is Usagi Drop 2. Oh no.
Please don't fuck the little girl.
Real good story. Yeah, just a wholesome. Angry Mage, if you just want to call in at any point, we don't have the ability to get you like in. I can just hold my cell phone up to the to the mic though if you want. You can call us at 419-777-8625 if you have anyone watching. Any of the four of you. I think two of them are us.
Yeah. So the other, I mean, any of the 4,000 people watching right now.
Yeah, I think this is in K. I think this is in thousands. What was I talking about? Oh yeah, so Lolly shows up. I've seen people talking about this show like it's good, and I can't fucking imagine why. There's nothing going on. She has a dead demon dad. The best part is her name is Latina.
Oh my god.
Beautiful. She's like half demon or something, but the thing I appreciate is that they're not doing the thing where, like, he brings her into the village and they're not doing the thing where she has to hide her horns or whatever and everyone hates her. Like he just introduces her to people and they're just like, oh, half demon, huh? All right. They're fine with it. So people are nice. This isn't like Bully Town, like fucking, like Mao Sama. This is just like people are kind of decent here. So, but then apparently he knows this chef and he walks into this guy's kitchen holding a strange 6-year-old girl in like a dirty loincloth and he's like, hey, can I use your bathroom real quick? And the guy's like, yeah, I guess. Fucking creep. So yeah, he
this is the third one this week.
He takes her to the bathroom and just strips her down and gives her a scrub. In a fatherly way. It's fine.
That's pretty quick time to, you gotta give it a little bit before you get to scrubbing the girl down.
She's gross, man. When
yeah, what she can take care of it.
She can't take care of it. She's a little one. She's a tyke.
Throw her in the water.
Just toss her in there with the claw. Yeah. So yeah, I think at that point I fell asleep and had like a psychedelic like breakdown, but it was kind of nothing. I don't know. She's very cute. It looks like I think there'll be a time skip. It seems like in the opening there might be a time skip.
Just enough to make it legal.
Well, like 12. Maybe 12 is legal in the isekai.
Fantasy world.
Yeah, fantasy. Yeah, I mean, it's old. It's like olden times. They were a bit more lax about that back then.
I'm into the isekai that is literally only the age of consent is lower.
Yeah, he's just gonna. The show is about him marrying her at Menarch and then just like making a homestead.
Well, hopefully they can avoid prima nocta.
Oh yeah, they gotta escape the village because fucking King Jose wants his prima nocta. That's not a joke about how Mexicans rape. It's just because she's Latina. Anyways.
Yes. Yeah. I liked it.
You got it. Next show. You watch. Oh, Dr. Stone.
Oh man.
I always want to say it like that. I don't know why. Dr. Stone.
This show's got some crazy shit going on in it.
This is a big one. Yeah, this is a very popular one this season. I thought this was gonna be a battle shonen, and it's not yet.
It looks like it.
Yes, it does look because he's got crazy hair.
There's a dude with a big veggie haircut in this. He's got some fucking serious celery shit going on.
Yeah, I don't know if he's Dr. Stone. I assume he is.
He's gotta be, right?
This is a manga by Riichiro Inagaki. He's the iShield 21 guy. That's the manga about American football. Very popular. Animated by TMS. So the first shot is, again, this is the other one I was talking about, where like we got to give you the premise up front. People turn into stone, and the first shot is some people who have turned into stone, and a girl's ass is out. So this show rules off the bat. But then it stops ruling because it introduces Dr. Stone, and I don't like him.
No, he's a bit of a conceited bastard.
He's Jimmy Neutron, but even cockier.
With even more ridiculous hair somehow.
Not a big fan. Yeah, crazy hair. Just such a smarmy guy.
I think the only redeeming thing about him is that he's got the weird kind of affection for our meathead protagonist. I think that's like the one redeeming thing for me, is that he's got this kind of unyielding respect for his fighting spirit.
The friendship would. I mean, he's kind of just like. I mean, I don't think he's just using him, but that's kind of the relationship. It's like, you do the fucking muscle shit. Yeah, the friendship would be good if I liked either of these guys. I mean, the other guy's less annoying, but he's still always shouting because he's
shonen protag, man.
It's supposed to be the muscle guy. He's not. I mean, he is a shonen protag, yeah. But he's just always. He's shouting how dumb he is. That's supposed to be funny. I don't really like it, but it goes back. They're in normal world before everyone turns into stone, and And Muscle Guy is going to confess to this girl who is super ugu. She's designed like even differently than
There's
the
a
rest of the
shot in there,
characters.
man.
There's a couple
There's
of them. Oh yeah, girl's got some eyes on her.
Yeah.
Ooh, fucking goo. And he's gonna confess. They do the Awari no Seraph thing where the airplane goes down, everyone turns to stone. I don't know why they spoiled that with the one-off line in the first shot. Like, they're so worried that people won't think the stakes are high enough in the first 90 seconds of the show that, like, you know, I had no idea what this show. I went in cold, and this is even with that, this is still a good show to go into blind. But it would have been better if they hadn't done that, because I would have been like, whoa. But then I was still like, whoa, because it's like, okay, everyone's Stone, but then I bet Dr. Stone, they established that he's smart with science, so he found some way to protect himself, and then he's going to help everyone else. But it turns out no, and then time starts passing, and you're like, oh shit.
Yes.
I was like, oh, okay.
I like that aspect of it a lot,
good.
actually.
They could have.
That's...
I felt like they could have even done that sequence for longer to make it feel like a long ass time, because make it feel like a couple weeks, but it's been 3,700 years.
Yeah, I really I would have liked to have seen. They do actually a time lapse sequence later on in the episode when they're like putting together the pieces, to, like trying to rebuild society. That, like, if you had done something like that where you just have like the actual decay of the world around them manifested on screen, you know, like as the ridiculous amount of seasons pass, that could be pretty neat.
Well, they did that kind of with stuff growing.
Yeah.
But and the other thing is just like, this would be impossible to like convey, but like he's not nearly mind fucked enough for being basically in solitary for 3,000 years.
Can you, the other dude, okay, so like he hangs on through his love for the girl and how he wants to confess to her super bad, and the other guy hangs on by counting seconds.
Just counting.
Could you imagine how bad that would fuck you up? I listened to Rack City 60 times, and my dad's snores were bass tones, like mimicking the bass line from that. You would never get 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You would never get that out of your head.
You would not be human anymore. Yeah, it's
no. You would be mush for sure.
Yeah, it's just the fact that you have to put an effort to remain conscious through almost 4,000 years. People
lose their sense of reality after being in isolation for a month. Like, you know, it's just
but anyways,
but, you know, anime.
Yeah, he breaks out of the stone. It turns out they were just covered in stone. I thought they had turned to stone. It's kind of dumb. Yeah, you know, they could have made that, you know, the centuries feel a bit longer, but and the other thing that confused me was he gets out and then he passes by this like stone girl in pieces, and he's like, well, sorry, and then he keeps walking, and I was like, oh, was that the girl he was confessing to?
I thought that as well. It was
like,
confusing.
oh shit, he got over that way too quick. But no, it turns out that was just some random person that he kind of didn't put back together, but like put the pieces all in one space for no reason. I don't know why. So this is just like that Power Rangers series, by the way. Everyone turns to stone. So then he actually does walk and find the girl. She's covered in a tree has like enveloped her partially, which is how you know she's going to be there for a while. She's going to be a plot device for her. He's not getting her out anytime soon. Also, by the opening, you can see that that's going to be his motivation. She's not getting out. So, and then fucking Dr. Stone's here. And his code says E equals MC squared. Fuck,
so silly.
I fucking hate this guy so much. This fucking science ass motherfucker.
Who are you doing that for? Who are you writing that number for, guy? What are you writing that equation for?
Don't like it.
Show off.
And then so he's like, hi, you finally woke up. I woke up 6 months ago, you know. And then there's a shot of Muscle Guy, his reaction to like what Dr. Stone has built. He's like, you built this from scratch, and you're anticipating the next shot, and you're like, oh shit, he built a fucking spaceship. Holy shit. And then it cuts to, he built a decent treehouse, like an okay treehouse. Like
it's pretty well put together. Like, it looks like it's stable.
Like, yeah, like if the primitive technology guy built this treehouse, I'd be like, damn, all right, nice job, dude. Dr. Stone is this guy who has Yu-Gi-Oh hair, and he's like, I built this treehouse and I collected some mushrooms. Like, holy shit, you know.
You know what? I guess the idea is he did it all by himself, and he survived long enough to do it, and like, That's pretty impressive.
Yeah.
To-
So then, so Dr. Stone gives this pretty cool speech about rebuilding civilization, and you're like, yeah, and then he's like, we're gonna be like Adam and Eve, and I'm like, wait.
Yeah.
That's the part where I'm just
wait a
like,
minute.
all right, this is the Lord of the Flies scenario. I'm gonna have to kill my best friend with a rock. He's got the cabin, he's got the gay fever, the 6 months.
He somehow throughout the course, he counted all that time. He forgot how gender's done work.
Yeah,
He
was
just
it's just too much too much math turns you gay, folks. That's the lesson.
Yep.
Today.
I mean, look at Alan Turing.
That's exactly, autism.
And yes, I also was a little amped up by the speech. I was I'm like, okay, specialization of labor, fucking they're gonna do it all together. I buy it. And I was also immediately deflated by the Adam and Eve thing. Weird. This is a roller coaster of emotions, this show.
Absolutely. So then they get to work. He has the brawn now. There are some things about this, like he's supposed to be so smart, but clearly you can only write a character that is as smart as you. And the guy writing this is just, he's having them pick mushrooms, and it's like, it would be such a fucking waste of time to pick a basket of mushrooms in a survival situation. Like there's no calories in them shits. Fucking dude, plant some tubers, bro. Where are the tubers at? So then there's some chemistry happening. The bats in this cave are making nitric acid, and if he had some booze, he could make a more powerful solvent to erode the rock on everyone.
How come he didn't think of this? How come it takes Muscle Man to think of this?
Well, he says, if only I had some booze, and then the friend is like, why don't you make some booze? And he's like, of course,
it's exactly the same shit going.
It's like there's only one way to make that.
Yeah, it's like, come on, dude. You're a being of pure logic with a 8 billion IQ. You're 10 billion% sure about everything.
That's chemistry 101. He extracted gasoline from plastic, and he doesn't know how to fucking make prison wine.
Fucking this brain dead idiot knows how to do that shit. Come on, guy.
So his friend comes up with wine. I guess it's because they have grapes growing. It doesn't have to taste good. You can just kind of toss everything in the general area into a barrel and just let it ferment if you're distilling it.
You can make alcohol out of wood if you need to.
Yeah, you could just. Well, would methanol work for what he's trying to do? Maybe not. They need ethanol. Wood ferments into methanol. Unless they have some citric acid. I think citric acid can cause wood to ferment into ethanol, but I don't know. I'm not Popcorn Sutton. What do I look like, Popcorn Sutton?
I don't know what that is.
But they get to distilling. There's nice pan flute music over this montage of them trying to make booze. And then they finally do it, and there's a lot of like, this is science, and I just kept playing Jay Bauman, this. Now this is the power of math.
So good.
over and over again in my head.
That is one of the funniest videos they've made in a long time, by the way. It's amazing. It's fucking amazing.
Science, bitch.
How do they still do it? How are they still good?
It's good. So I'm interested. It's not a battle shonen yet, but they're gonna revive some people that look like some fucking shonen ass motherfuckers.
Oh, people that couldn't keep their brains together and they reverted to pure instinct.
Could be, yeah.
And kind of like a Wolverine scenario.
Guys, his lady friend's gonna be MacGuffin. They're gonna keep on crafting. Minecraft.
Maybe he gets manipulated by Dr. Stone. And then he's like, well, we can't revive her quite yet. We need it. And he keeps using him for labor throughout the course of this because it's for the betterment of all mankind. And if he gets his lady friend, he'll stop, maybe. I don't know.
Maybe.
Survival. Okay, so I guess here's my brief thoughts on this.
Yeah.
This show is ugly as a motherfucker. It is.
You think you like in character design or like the environments?
The environments look okay, but the characters are ugly.
Dr. Stone looks ridiculous in a way that I kind of like. The other guy is just sort of normal. I don't know. Big muscular dude.
There's something about rebuilding society from the ground up that gets my pee hard.
Of course that's yeah, no.
It is the fantasy.
You're a guy. You're a fucking man. That's why. That's why I lost 3 weeks of my life and didn't do any homework playing Factorio, because it was like I don't need any more dopamine. I could stop eating. I could just do this. I could just the feeling of automating things and building onto the things you've already. It's the best. It's the best.
Man, there are no more frontiers to conquer until we get to space. It's a huge bummer.
That's why I make pickles and
the flavor frontier.
Yeah, the flavor frontier. I'm fucking pioneering the flavor frontier, bitch.
I want that on a shirt.
You're stuck in Flavor Town. I'm fucking traversing west and north and south and east into the flavor frontier.
I died of dysentery along the way.
That's a risk I'm willing to take. No, that's an honor to die to get to fucking blast your brains out at the back end on the way to the Holy Land.
Mrs. Obama.
Mrs. Obama.
It's been an honor. Fucking just pooping.
But Angry Mage says a bunch of my buddies started playing Factorio, so I joined them and just killed bugs because I didn't have autism for building. Oh, you're missing out. Yeah, see, I'm the opposite. I built stuff until I had to kill aliens, and then I stopped playing the game because I realized, like, oh, this is going to take forever. I don't want to kill these aliens. I just wanted to build power grids and make trains run coal from place to place. You could find a coal mine or a coal vein, then you have to build stuff to extract it, and then you can build robots that take it onto a train, and then you have to build walls around that so the aliens don't get to it. Then you can build turrets on that to protect it, and then the train will automatically run it from there to your base where it'll deposit it, and then you can have robots take the coal to the shit that's running on coal to be building other shit.
Into Civ. Civ's pretty fun.
Sure. One of my coworkers is trying to get me into City Skylines for years.
That's another game. It's like on my never going to get to because my life. But
he fucking loves it.
But I would love to play City Skylines in some afterlife. That'd be great.
Yeah. So this show, kind of neat. It was a good one to go into blind because I had no idea what this was about. By the end, I was like, oh damn, all right, cool.
Yep, this is an uphill battle, but it won. I ended up being into it, even in spite of the obnoxious character and yeah.
The other show that just I watched was Joshikose no Mudazukai, Wasteful Days of High School Girl. Couldn't just add an indefinite article in there, English translators? Wasteful Days of a High School Girl? Or girls? Like what? Why translate it like this? I don't know. Manga adaptation by Passion, known for Citrus and Hinako Note and Rail Wars. It's a slice of life about high school girls. Doesn't look great off the bat. That's always my first impression. This off the bat, really big hands on this first girl. The first shot, she's holding her hands and it's like, holy shit, something's wrong with her hands. I think one of them is like a Fujoshi, maybe a semi-secret Fujoshi. The opening is Rappu. They do a little rap. Nice. Oh, I forgot to change the image. Hold on the stream. Everyone's gonna be confused and not gonna know what show we're talking about. Where is it? Here it is. So there's that one. There's a growly food one who's really Genki and forward. There's a Chuni one that we don't meet until later. There's a deadpan one. All very, very archetypal. So they meet up at high school. It's first day of high school. They were friends in middle school. So it's like a slice of life, but like it's not really the kind where the girls are just cute. It's like the kind where they're like sort of crude and silly and rough around the edges instead of cute, but it's way toned down from something like Asobi Asabase or like we watched Josekose, remember like the 2005 show where it was very lewd. It's not quite that extreme, but it's like oh, we're quirky high school girls, you know. So, and then they meet their teacher. They do the bit where the teacher's a weird pervert. But wait, I was gonna say it's toned down from something like Azumanga Daioh, but then he gives this huge speech about like age of consent laws and like parental approval and and he's just like fucking screaming by the end, and it was actually a pretty good bit. It was funny. I liked it. So the food one, the Genki one, is horny, wants to find a boyfriend, which is unusual for a show like this. Just really just wants to meet a boy. So she's just going around asking strangers if they can introduce her to a boy. So she goes around asking.
I wish I'd seen this. Fuck.
I mean, I don't know. But she's talking to all these other characters, like side characters, not one of the three main, not the three main girls. Like, so she talks to the Chuny one. The Chuny one doesn't know any boys. She talks to there's an angry lolly who is upset that everyone notices how cute and short she is. So she's very confrontational. One girl is like I don't know, she's supposed to be like sporty or something. She has headphones. Her last name is just a single horizontal line, which apparently works in Japanese. Her name, like, it's pronounced Ni-no-ichi or something. I don't know why. And one of the other characters is a Tsukomi. Her job is to be the straight man. And like the second half of this episode is her like going through cliched like manga scenarios of her meeting boys, and like just like, you know, one of them's like a homeless guitar player, and one of them's, you know, fucking I don't even know. They all have different weird professions that she meets them, and then it always ends with the boy saying, "You're an interesting girl, aren't you?" And I don't know. And you know, it's just like a bunch of these girls talking, and my fix for this show is it would go from like a 4 or 5 to like a masterpiece if these conversations, if they fully coolied this up. It's so easy. Why hasn't anyone figured this out? It's been 20 years. If these conversations had alternative rock instrumentals under them instead of kooky synthetic like string plucking, they would seem 1,000% deeper, and this would be a show of the season.
Just like walls of sound, like fucking.
Just like, chill out 90s rock, just like hanging out with your friends in the summer rock.
You get some Jesus and Mary Chain, you know, like some fucking just
indie rock, just
cool
like
school.
Pixies or fucking
anything. Anything of that kind of dream pop ilk is probably going to be fine.
Absolutely. But instead, it's just pretty average. That's why I didn't have you watch it. I don't know.
I'm gonna do a recut of it that does that.
I bet if you get the Blu-ray, they'll have the musical on the instrumental.
Yeah, in a different field,
different track.
Channel.
Yeah. So that, and the final show of this episode. Oh, yes. We're only an hour and a half in. Great. We're gonna do a sub 2-hour episode. And it's a good one.
It's a doozy.
Enan.
I believe it's NN.
No. Shobotai. You're so angry. You ever be so angry you gotta say 2 N's?
I'm gonna say it.
I'm gonna fucking say 2 N's. You fucking NN. What the fuck?
Oh man.
My first note for this show is Fire Truck. There's actually no fire truck in this. It's not even really about firefighters. They just have firefighter outfits on. They're just wizards.
They're so silly.
It's very silly because they're just shonen superheroes, but they
wear really silly.
Yeah, huge fucking firefighter
big
outfits.
Boys. And like the thing is they're jacked, and you don't see how jacked they are when they're in the outfit because they're so big and puffy.
Yeah, they still look cool, but they get to the station and you realize like every character in the show is like obnoxiously hot. Like they look like they look like it's models. Perfection. It's so fun. It's so great.
And the thing, yeah, you're right. They still managed to look cool. Like these outfits conceptually shouldn't be as dope as they are.
You look like you're just doing a strength build in Dark Souls. Like you just put on the biggest thing you possibly could.
You know, I think it's pretty obvious, but this is from the mangaka who did Soul Eater.
This is the Soul Eater. This is what he's been doing for the past 5 years, it turns out. Ever since Soul Eater not.
He is like the only person capable of making these designs seem cool, which is just kind of his strong suit, is taking things that should not be cool and should be anti-cool, but they actually work out really well. And also being quite silly.
Come a long way since that first page of Soul Eater. You've seen that, right?
No, I haven't.
You've seen that. Yes, sure you have. Looks rough. Where is it? Oh, yeah.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh, yeah,
Lord.
baby.
It looks like, what the fuck is the name of that show? That manga?
Like Air or something? Like an old show?
No. It looks like, the guy...
The ninja show or like, I don't know.
Shaman King.
Yeah, yeah.
Homie looks like Shaman King.
Yeah, you know, Soul Eater started like 2004, around that era.
Outfit still lit though.
They're so spiky. He's got spiky sleeves. Everything's so spiky.
Yeah, he's got that Tetsuo Nomura kind of thing going on.
Yeah. They're the Fire Force. This is a 2-core show. And it's by David Production, known for Bento and JoJo, Cells at Work.
Oh, nice. That's good pedigree, actually, though.
Yeah, totally. It's solar year 198. I don't know if that means this has been going on for 200 years. So, it starts off on a train. The train announcements just give something called Amaterasu reports, activity, which is like the sun goddess.
Yes.
So apparently they have some system for seeing when things are about to
flame on.
When things
whoa.
When things are about to get a little heated. So people are turning into fire demons. They're exploding into flames. Randomly, spontaneous combustion. Except they don't just die; they also freak out. So our MC is at a train station and he sees one of these and he's about to fight it, but then these guys show up. They got a nun, and they send the demon back to, if my subs were correct, the Great Flame of Fire.
Yes, a little redundant, a little bit.
Just a little bit.
Just a little bit redundant.
Ooh. And our boy can shoot fire out of his feet and fly real fast.
Yeah, he can.
And
fuck yeah, he can.
He awesome. saves the nun.
Sick.
And it turns out he's joining them today. That's why he was there. So he's off the bat. He's got shark teeth, but he's polite. He just seems like a good, clean-cut fellow. Yeah,
I like that kind of that quirk that he could, when he's nervous, he has this horrible grin, this horrible shark
sort of evil-looking grin. Yeah.
I think that's a good bit, and I had a thought I was gonna go further with that than that, but no, that's it. I like that shark tooth grin because I lost my train of thought.
Yeah. When I found out this wasn't just about fighting literal fires, I revoked my autistic approval badge, but
because of the specificity of the content, it's just
I wanted I wanted backdraft. I wanted fucking you need to be. I wanted them to be talking about temperatures. And what's
oh my god, that's an office building. The paper's gonna catch fire.
Yeah. I want different types of fires. I want fucking weird ways of solving the fire. I want what's it called when the room explodes, basically, the fucking flash whatever. The video they always show you in school, so
damn it, you're right. That would have been
it would have been pretty good.
I like the show we got, but
this is really good.
That would have been a good first episode to enjoy.
Oh, for sure. But it's still cool. So he goes to their headquarters. They're run out of an old church, which is cool. and a little bit of yaoi baiting off the bat, because one of them calls MC cute, and they're all just like fucking not ripped, but just very lean, muscular, like cool, like
very
young
efficient
model, just like hot young athlete looking people.
Yeah, the otter body, got the otter kind of thing going.
A little bit more muscular than otter, but yeah, I think that's probably the closest to otter mode. So then they're in like their fucking tank tops hanging out, and then we get the ladies. They're in the shower.
They're sexy too, by the way.
Everyone's so hot. It's almost distracting,
It's cheesecake. If you're gonna have firemen, you gotta have the cheesecake.
Yeah, I know. It's just like Baywatch. Like they're all just fucking it's like
simmering hot,
insultingly hot.
Yeah, they're just starting fires by their own body heat alone, baby.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's not like even like they're like anime like cute. They're just like fucking these firefighters, let me tell you, they're fucking smoking. That's what I say.
Jesus, guy.
I can't fucking hear you.
Oh no!
This fire truck is hot. It's really cooking. This fire truck is hot. Let's take a look in. I had this video about fire trucks I would watch as like a 5-year-old on VHS, and I probably watched it dozens, if not hundreds of times, and they did a rap about fire trucks.
You've told me this.
I had said on the podcast, though. He would do a rap about fire trucks, and he would say, this fire truck is hot. It's really cooking. This fire truck is hot. Let's take a look in.
But I hope the truck's not hot. That's not good. It shouldn't be running hot.
No, it's hot like it's fucking HAWT, my man. It's like,
no.
ooh, it's
hit my ride, like they raise up the fucking door.
Fanning yourself, pulling your collar. Yeah, it's that kind of hot. And then they get, what happens? Oh yeah, there's a fire at a factory. Throughout the episode, MC's getting flashbacks to his traumatic fire thing. Oh,
I remembered the thing from earlier. Okay, so this is like the whole bit of him. Whenever he's nervous, he grins, which reminds me a lot of this really great Willem Dafoe short film.
Oh yeah,
Smile, where he has a permanent grin no matter what the situation is.
It's a famous GIF, yeah.
Yes, and it's very similar to that, where people misconstrue it in inappropriate situations, and it just leads to issues. And I like that trope. I think it's good.
Yeah, nice.
Not a trope necessarily, but I like it.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, it's like his mom spontaneously combusted and went. She went ghost. And she done gone ghost.
She's definitely ghost now.
And his house burned down and killed his family, and everyone blamed him because he could shoot fire out his feet. But this is a world where people regularly explode into flames, so I feel like people probably be like, well, if he said she exploded into flames, he's probably like, that happens, I don't know.
Yeah, it might be a thing where like they didn't get it didn't register on the Amaterasu thing or whatever.
Oh yeah.
And they're like, well, yeah, sure thing, Flame Kid.
Could be.
Twinkle Toes.
He's very menacing. And so then there's this fire someone explodes at this factory, and they get there, and MC starts freaking out because he's having flashbacks or something. And then there's a big fight, and it's great. It looks fantastic.
It's so lit.
It's animated superbly. It's goddamn amazing.
Yeah, no, it's the shit. I really love like the different fighting styles too, and where the physicality that each of the fighters has. And him in particular, when he flies around using the flames on his feet, it is so sick. It's just they really nailed the way that he needs to move, and it's one of the coolest things, man.
Yeah, it's really good.
Very impressed. Very impressed.
And I will say, music wasn't great. Kind of took me out of it. Could have been better. But they send this lady back to the fire flame of flaming fire, and you know, you know, the guy's or the lady's husband thanks him, and because his thing is that he wants to be a hero. I'm gonna be the hero, and there's got to be. I hope there's got to be like an arc or an episode where, like, you know, sometimes people are not gonna like you. Sometimes you're gonna do stuff. Some people are gonna be pissed, and everyone's gonna fucking hate you, and you got to deal with it. You know, because if everyone's just always being like, "Oh, thank you so much," then
a little too easy.
You can't just get it handed to you. You know.
I'm sure it's just he's getting a taste of what it's like to be a hero, and some sort of hurdle that he's got to overcome because he's got that horrible grin that like is gonna get. I'm sure he's gonna be like, "Why are you grinning like that? My wife is the one getting exploded," which is I thought was potential outcome here was that he was going to be hated by this guy because he's got this horrible manic grin all the time.
Yeah, I think you know, like, I mean, it would have been a bit of a downer, but you know, ending this first episode with just like, yeah, it's not really, you know, you're not gonna feel like a hero, you know, because not everyone's gonna appreciate you and understand, and you know, they're emotional because their fucking factories and wives are exploding, and that would kind of set it up for, you know, it's like he learns that he's doing the right thing is its own reward, and
but you know what? I've got faith. I mean, the mangaka's
yeah, for sure
managed to do some pretty emotionally potent things, and this first episode's fucking tight.
Yeah, totally.
I was totally into it, man.
I'm these hot young firefighters, it got me hooked, boy.
Yep. Yeah, it's good.
And there you go. That's part 1 of Spring.
Boom.
Of Sprang. Sprang has sprung.
You know, not too many duds.
That's because I had you watch the entertaining ones.
Yeah,
you didn't have to.
Great.
You didn't have to fucking see.
The lolly isekais.
You didn't have to. You didn't have to watch a demon spring into existence in your fucking living room. You would probably.
You did. Yeah, you took the brunt of that.
I bit the bullet on that one.
Yeah, usually, sometimes you throw me some real garbage, but
at least you didn't have to enter hell.
Yeah. You know, I wish I could at least see, like, you know, shave me like 10% of that. If I could tap out a little bit into it, you know, I'd be like, all right, no fun, not fun anymore.
Have you had any dreams where you're on psychedelics and you've lost your mind?
No, but you know, I've had those horrifying dreams where you do something that irrevocably damages your life, you know?
Yeah, for me, it's like either, you know, just like I forgot to take all my finals, or like I'm like seeing things and my mind is wrong and nothing's ever gonna be the same.
No, I don't have many of those.
Okay, they're not fun.
Maybe I forget them.
I had a dream where I was just staring at a mounted deer head on the wall, and it kept changing colors, like from like bright green to red and yellow, and I couldn't figure out what color it actually was, and I just like broke down and like fell on the ground and was holding my head and going like, oh no, this is it.
You got a preview for the next Hotline Miami game. That's
basically. So cool. So we'll be back next time to talk. I'll be talking about Symphogeia because I'm gonna watch that. You didn't get to watch Otome Domoyo. Grand Belm. One of the most unattractive names I think we have. Yeah.
There's there's always one every season.
It sounds like a bad JRPG. Grand Belm.
Yeah, Grand Belm has a huge cult following, but like it's not. Actually, it's got a small cult following, but they're really dedicated.
You need to download the fan translation. You need to fucking install some texture packs.
Well, if you play the Western version of Grand Belm, which got sold 3,000 copies, you don't get the skirts are too long. That's a huge change that people don't like from Grand Belm in Japan. Is that they fucked up the skirts.
Sony edited the cutscenes. You can't see the ass in the Grand Belm opening.
Right.
All right, well, what song are we going out on then?
I mean, you already know what it is.
You're right. All right. Well, we'll see you guys next time. See ya.
It's been 1 week since you looked at me.
Have a good one.
Back and see me. 3 days since the living room. I realized I saw my fault, but couldn't tell you. Yesterday, you'd forgiven me. But it'll still be 2 days till I say I'm sorry.
Hold it now and watch a hoodwink. Does it make you stop, think? You'll think you're looking at Aquaman. I summon fish to the dish, although I like the chalet Swiss. I like the sushi, cause it's never touch a frying pan. Hot like wasabi when I bust rhymes. Speak like Leanne Rhymes, because I'm all about value. Bert Camper's got the mad hits. You try to match wits, you try to hold me, but I bust through. Gonna make a break and take a bake out like a stinking, it can shake out like vanilla. It's the finest.